Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Gratitude Happy Hour, Healing Emotionally After Trauma. I have a very special guest with me today, and we're so glad to come on to present on this topic, which is so important and I think so relevant in what's going on today in today's world. But before Deb comes to join me, I just want to share that we are so happy to be bringing you this through several places, actually, as we live stream today. We are here with Speak Up Empower Spiritual Real Talk, Spiritual Transformation. We are here on Enlightened World Network, and we are here on Angel Speakers and on Angel Heart Radio. Sorry, it took me a minute to get that out. So, can I just tell you a few things that are happening at Real Talk Spiritual Transformation, which is through Speak Up and Empower? Deb Goldberg, my guest today, will have a show tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and that is Divine Relationship Recovery. And tomorrow is such an important show. It's all about forgiveness. And we have a really great discussion around that will come on tomorrow at 5 o'clock. On Sunday, Enlightened World holds a silent meditation at 10 o'clock. Deb Goldberg is part of that, along with Ruth Anderson and myself. And we hold 30 minutes of just beautiful music that plays while you do your own meditation. And we get together and bring forth whatever needs to be healed, whatever needs to be transformed as we are sitting together. Every Tuesday, I bring this show, which is Gratitude Happy Hour. And then on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock, I hold a meditation that I guide, and that is through Real Talk Meditate at Speak Up and Empower. Every day, Enlightened World brings a meditation a day, and that all of those can be found on Real Talk Meditate as well. So that's our announcements. And now let's get to the meat of this show. I am so honored and so thrilled to welcome Deb Goldberg to the show. Deb, thank you for being here with me today.
My goodness, Teri, it is my pleasure to be here with you. It's always a joy being in your presence and all the wisdom that you have, that you share with everyone. So just your light is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You touched my heart. Oh, and speaking of touching our hearts, I love to start my show with really being heart-centered. So I'd like for everyone that's listening right now to do that. Just touch your heart center. Just place your hand there. What happens when you place your hand there is you bring your focus to your heart. Talk about this really huge topic of how we heal emotionally. That's where we need to come from. It's from our heart center that we will do that really deep inner work and that healing. So as you focus your energy there in your heart, just take a deep breath in. Forget about what's happened today. Forget about what will happen after we get off this show. Just center on right now. Just breathe into this now moment and feel the experience of just being. You don't have to be anything or do anything. Just be. Just sit with yourself as we bring you messages from our spirits that have guided us. Divinity, God, Jesus, the angels, our spirit guides. They're the ones that are bringing the show. It's not me, it's not Deb. It's coming from the spirit realm. And what they have instructed us and guided us to do is to bring transformational energy and words to help all of us here on earth find that place of really letting go and really releasing. And that's the healing power. That's when you start to really heal, is when you go inside and you focus on, what do I need to let go of? So as we talk about this topic today, and I know Deb she was a counselor for many years, and is still a very profound life coach who can help people with dealing with these emotions and dealing with life situations, as well as a beautiful spiritual teacher who listens with her heart to what she's guided in. And so I know that Deb has dealt with this topic a lot, and I want her to share her wisdom with us today and how we can start to find that peace after we go through something traumatic. So, Deb, I just want to really pull on your wisdom and pull on your experience in dealing with times that it may not even be your time. It may be times when people that were close to you, or former clients, or whatever, people that you know of that have suffered something in their life that triggered those huge emotional responses. And then those triggers that keep on giving, you know, you keep getting triggered by them until you find that peace inside, right? That's what it's all about, is getting to that place where the triggers no longer are huge and they can start to subside.
Right. Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I have found is that most of us don't know how to sit with those feelings.
Mhm.
We don't know how to sit with uncomfortable feelings. We just want them to leave. And Teri and I just finished pre-recording a show for tomorrow on divine relationship recovery. It's all about forgiveness, which dovetails on this so beautifully. Trauma can be experienced through many different aspects of life. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be something so serious. It can be anything that somebody perceives as a trauma. So normally we have associated PTSD with veterans that have come back from war, or people that have had terrible life-threatening illnesses or accidents, physical, sexual, emotional abuse. It could be losing a loved one. It can be any aspect of life that feels traumatic to you. So I think that although we are talking about the effects of trauma today, you might find that you two experience similar symptomology, because I believe also as a collective, humanity, we share much of the same beliefs, thoughts, fears, and especially I believe that our original trauma is actually when we believe that we're separated from God, Creator, or whoever you believe where you came from, who created you, divine love. So that in itself is a trauma, when you feel alone and you feel disconnected from the source of your life, and believing that it's outside of you versus inside of you. So I believe we all share trauma from one degree to the other for different reasons. And that all the symptoms, the beliefs, the actions, all the fears are normal reactions to feeling that you have dealt with some trauma. It's normal to have the symptoms of trauma. You're not broken, and everything can be healed. Everything can be processed and moved through and let go of. But it really takes you wanting to sit with those feelings, which is the total opposite of what a diagnosis of PTSD might be, because we do everything to stay away from those thoughts or memories.
Yeah. sometimes we try to hide from them, but sometimes something happens in our life and it just takes us right back to those emotions.
Mhm.
That's the trigger. That's what we refer to when we say a trigger. Sometimes we don't even know what that original trauma was because we pushed it so far down, right, Deb?
Mhm.
We push down those things that we don't want to look at. It's like if I have a place in my apartment that's so cluttered, I don't want to look at that. I
Mhm.
like want to shut that door and say, okay, I'm not going to deal with that. And we do that with our emotions. We shut that door and we
Mhm.
say, I'm not going to go in there. I'm not even going to look at that. I'm not even going to acknowledge that it's there, right?
Right.
These are the things we do. And then something happens and that door kind of creeps open, doesn't it?
Mhm. And it always will. The
Hmm.
more that we shove down our feelings, it's like we're shoving down energy, and that energy has to come back up somewhere. So if we are shoving it down or putting it in a closet, there that energy is going to be beating on the closet or trying to shove the door open to come out because it needs the light. It needs the light to be healed. And the more we try to keep repress uh, memories or feelings or whatever, they are going to keep popping up, and they're going to make you very, very uncomfortable until you're willing to sit in them and heal with them. And I'm talk a lot about I wasn't able to go through those processes without doing it with God or Jesus. That I had to have divine support, because I didn't know how to. I was scared out of my mind to open those doors again and walk back in, even though they're not happening, even though it was something from the past. It just, it's a huge trigger. And then all those emotions that you have felt are waiting there for you to bring love and grace to yourself and healing and forgiveness, um, so that you can now stop letting it control you.
Hmm. That's what happens. It does, but it doesn't have to. And that's the beauty of it. That's what we are here is to offer hope that, you don't have to keep reliving that experience or those emotions over and over again. Deb, there have been many times in my life where I would go through a situation and I'd end up in that place where I was broken. I felt broken. I wasn't, but I felt that
Mhm.
brokenness, that dark place. Some call it the dark night of the soul.
Mhm.
Where you're really in that place where nothing, there's no light coming in, and you can't see that light that's coming in.
Mhm.
And so I would make a different choice, and I would go through another experience, and then there I was right back again at
Mhm.
that dark night. And I'm like, okay, this cycle that I'm seeing is not real pleasant because I keep getting the triggers. I keep getting you know different faces but the same situations.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I really cleaned out that closet, I really got in there and did the forgiveness work and did the real deep stuff that you have to do to say I'm done.
Mhm.
And in my life, when I say I'm done, I'm done. It's a commitment. It's saying I choose a different way. I
Mhm.
choose to live my life a different way. So for me, it was that type of experience that I had to go through, that
Mhm.
type of deep cleaning, if you will, like when your apartment is so dirty that you can't even stand it anymore, and you say, okay, from head to ceiling to floor, it's got to be cleaned. And
Yeah.
that's the way it is with our emotions, isn't it? It can't be just a little fix. I can't just clean the stove and say that my apartment's clean.
Mhm.
It has to be everything that comes out to be healed and to be cleaned.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important point that we need to share, that there, whatever it is that's sitting there in that space inside of you, It's
Mhm.
going to sit there
Mhm.
until you decide, nobody else, until you decide that it's time to sweep the floor and get rid of it.
Right. And that's so beautiful, Terry, because it is such an act of self-love
Yeah.
to want to clean all of those things out,
Mhm.
and to be so committed to doing that. It's such a beautiful thing to do for yourself. But what I found is that I didn't know how to do that. And when I woke up, it was sort of like, okay, okay, Deb, we're cleaning house. Everything you shoved down, it's going to come up, and we're going to clean house, and we're going to look at every single thing together. Um,
Mhm.
and most people, like myself, don't want to deal with those emotions because you feel like you can't. You feel like, I can't deal with this. I won't be able to handle the feelings that I have. And um, that is the way I felt. And that's why divine love is so necessary in bringing in whatever you connect to as divine love, spirit, so that you can have a foundation of love and grace to sit and hold you while you're pulling on all of these threads that are so very painful. Now, I thought it would be good maybe if we could talk a little bit about, the symptoms of PTSD, like nightmares and unwanted memories of the trauma, avoidance of a situation that brings back memories of the trauma, heightened reactions, anxiety, it could be a depressed mood. And lots of people have behavioral disturbances like agitation, irritability, hostility, hypervigilance. There can be self-destructive behavior, social isolation, and you can have flashbacks, fear, severe anxiety, mistrust, loss of interest or pleasure in things that you used to find very pleasurable, insomnia, nightmares, and emotional detachment because of unwanted thoughts. And I myself have experienced all of those things, as I'm sure Terry did too. These are common symptoms of PTSD. Um, and and so knowing that they are normal, but what actually brings them on is, let's even start with something that people really get stuck in, is having re-experiencing flashbacks, so that you are going back to either a moment of the trauma or the whole scenario, and you are stuck in a cycle of reviewing it. It just keeps playing in your head and playing in your head. And then you become completely um, uh, controlled with fear by sitting in that memory and letting it play like a recording. And so, one of the things I would ask people to do is, we have to stop the recording. Stop watching it. You probably watched it a gazillion times in your head, right? And every single time you watch that over and over again, you re traumatize yourself. But myself, I watched other people, clients, do this, where they would get stuck and that become paralyzed with fear, watching that memory over and over again. So we have to stop them. And what I would use, and what I asked other people to use, was a stop thought technique. Is just like, if it's coming up, we want to shut it down, stop it. Just tell yourself to stop it. Some people would make a stop sign in their mind and stop it. And if you have to do that 100 times a day, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you. But every time it flips on, you're going to shut it off. It flips on, shut it off. Shut it off, shut it off, shut it off. And eventually, your mind is not going to bring it up so much. Eventually, your mind's not going to bring it up at all. So, that is one major thing to do when you have flashbacks.
I love that. That's a great tool. Every week on here on the show, I try to bring something that will help, some way that you can put that tool in your toolbox to pull it back out again. So that's awesome, Deb. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. I think it's important to understand what you're going through when you have PTSD is because you don't want, it's a continued, it's almost like a virus. It just continues on and continues on and continues on. Whether you repress it, if you repress it, you're still going to have the triggers and the symptoms. So, like I was funny. I made a whole list of all the things that I have got affected by PTSD.
Right.
And it's so vast, the symptomology that happens of feeling like a victim, unworthiness, unloved, the shame, guilt, and blame. Like when I went in and did trauma work in myself with my inner children, I actually I came to I was about 15. So when I worked with that part of myself, I didn't even remember that I wanted to die back then. I just wanted to die. I had no memory of feeling that way, but I had to go back and access what I was feeling at that time and go back in with God, with Jesus, my higher self, me being able to embrace that part of me and accept myself exactly where I was, not wanting that part of me to change, not saying, oh, you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. It is complete validation of those feelings of what you had back then, and embracing and loving yourself through it. A lot of times when we experience these things, we're experiencing it with tunnel vision. We don't understand the whole expansiveness of what we are going through. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you get a thought stuck in your head and you relive and relive and relive those moments, and you don't see that it's going to change. You don't see that there's any way to get past it.
Mhm.
It's like that gate's locked
Mhm.
and you don't have the key. So it's like, and you can't breathe.
Mhm.
I've been there. I've experienced this, so I know what I'm talking about. And when you talk about that being paralyzed, being frozen, oh my goodness, so many times. And so many times I've woken up in the middle of the night with that just being absolutely frozen and panicking.
Mhm.
And it all comes back to reliving those experiences or the emotions of those experiences.
Mhm.
And one thing to really remember is that you're not your experiences.
Mhm.
Yes, it happened. It happened. Okay. We all have experiences in our life. We can't change them. We can't really change the facts of what happened. The only thing we can change about it is that energy of it and
Mhm.
how we choose to move forward from it.
Mhm.
So, yes, Deb, every word that you're saying, everything that you're bringing forth for us today, it makes total perfect sense. And I so appreciate your insight into this.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate having an opportunity to be here with you and talking about it because trauma is so widespread in our world. And even today, people are being traumatized over a virus, right?
Right.
To the point that it affected the stock market. I mean, fear is terrible. And when you don't have a place for hope, it makes it a lot worse. Hope, this is what this is all about, is hope and empowerment, that you can get through these things, but you need to start relying and trusting your creator, the source within you that has this world and you in divine order. And that even though things look so scary outside, it's okay. You're just not understanding the expansiveness of what is happening. So it is so important to have hope. And when you're stuck in these moments of flashbacks or memories or triggers, you don't feel like you have hope. You feel like it's never going to stop. And I'm here to tell you it does stop, and you can live a whole life and have meaning, because these experiences don't define you. They're just something that you're going through for whatever reason. And for me, it created, and this is what's going on now. This is what trauma does. It creates a lot of fear, a lack of safety and much trust, paranoia, suspicion, anxiety, depression. You can have mixed emotions. You could be angry and sad and feeling alone. You have a feeling of being defeated or violated in some way, feeling broken or scared. And those are horrible things to feel. And most of us, like I said, we don't think we can manage our feelings, so we just keep shoving that energy down and shoving it down. And it's about having the safety. And this is really important because I never felt safe in myself. And what divine love has provided for me, what God's provided for me and Jesus, is creating a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Safety net, so that I could sit with them and look at these things square in the eye. Myself. You are dealing with yourself.
Yes.
And doing it in a loving manner, because they teach you how to do it, that you can overcome absolutely anything when you have that type of safety net. But it takes you wanting to have that type of relationship within yourself, so that it cultivates you into becoming safe within yourself, that you can handle these things. It is such an amazing experience to go through and learn how much there is to you, that you don't have to run away from yourself. You don't have to run away from your emotions. You don't have to run away from the fear. It's okay to just feel them, and our job is really to transmute them. And
Yes.
yes, and we do that by processing it. We do that by bringing love to it. Bringing love transmutes all energy to love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Deb. And the very first step is to acknowledge them. Acknowledge that you have those emotions in there, right? They haven't been given a voice. They're like that little part of us that we keep pushing down and covering up. You know, Deb, what would you say to people that block out? Like, I know people that block out years of their life. They pushed it down so far,
Mhm.
and they're afraid even to open up that box. It's like, I can't open up that box because I'm afraid of what's there. They
Mhm.
don't even know what happened to them in certain years of their life. How would they begin? Where would that beginning place be for them, do you think?
Yeah, that's a coping mechanism, and that's part of what the ego helps with. It's almost like a protection. Is I'm gonna shove this down so we don't have to experience this pain, because the ego believes that you can't handle it. And so it is not unusual for people that have experienced such painful things to, as a coping mechanism, just completely repress all of the memories. But sooner or later they do come out. And if you're going to want to start digging them out, because it is like opening Pandora's box. It's just like, okay, I'm opening the box and here everything comes. So if you are not in a safe place emotionally, let alone physically, if you are not in a safe place emotionally and have the resources, and for me, I was too stubborn to go ask somebody to help me. I didn't think I needed any help. I can do it myself.
Right.
But what I only did this much by myself, right? Until God got a hold of me and it was like, no. And Jesus was like, no, Dad, we're opening up the whole can of worms here, and here it comes, baby. We're gonna be with
Yeah.
you. So developing a safety net for you to explore yourself, and know that you're going to be okay. That's what needs to be done. So it is important. And yeah, so whether you find a clinician, a coach, whatever will help you. But I will tell you that having those supports are so important. But it is not the same as having divine support. You need that as well. You need it as almost your primary, um, uh, because that is where you learn about yourself from divine truth. You don't learn that always from the outside, nor do you accept it from the outside. You have a hard enough accepting divine truth from within and taking that in. And so when you have divine love teaching you who you are and allowing you to embrace and explore yourself, all of yourself, there is not the same experience outside of yourself. There's so many people that can help you, but it needs to be both. It really needs to be both. So I would tell them we need to find a place within yourself and outside of yourself that you feel safe in your exploration, especially of painful things that you have repressed to a point where you have no memory of it. But it will come up when it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's affecting your whole life, unknown to you, unwittingly, even though it's been repressed, it is unwittingly affecting every area of your life.
That's so true. It really does. Um, and Deb, I've been at both places. I was in counseling many years ago because of the events from my childhood and trying to heal some of that. But I didn't get that thorough healing of those emotions until I connected with my spirit guides, with Jesus, with God, and really did go in and clean out all those things. That's when the transformation really happened. Earlier, when I was just talking with someone, it was therapeutic to talk about it, but I didn't get the real healing that I got until I did it with spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thorough healing that
Mm-hmm.
happens. And I'm so grateful that that's there for us.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I encourage people to reach out to wherever your resources are. If you have the ability to go to a therapist, I'm not putting that down at all. I'm
No,
just saying that because it did help, but
mm-hmm.
it wasn't the final getting rid of the emotions, or
Mm-hmm.
not getting rid of them, but transforming them
Mm-hmm.
in a way that now I can talk about the childhood sexual abuse. I can talk about any of the traumas that have happened. And it's not going to be a time of just, waterworks and,
Right.
all of that. So it really does transform you
Mm-hmm.
to let spirit lead and let spirit be the one. And before we came on, I mentioned that Archangel Jophiel was so present before we even hit that button to go live. Archangel Jophiel is so beautiful. She helps us to see the beauty inside of ourselves when we can't see it. She helps us to see the beauty in the world when we're looking only at the things that are going wrong, when we're looking at the fact that people are panicking over a virus or if there's a war going on. She helps us to look at what beauty is there and not just focus on what's wrong in the world. But one thing that Jophiel does that I thoroughly appreciate is she helps us to declutter. And when I say declutter, that's to go in there and look at what's lying around that maybe we're tripping over. Maybe there's an emotion there that, it's just so pervasive. And every time we try to move forward, we find ourselves falling on our face because that emotion just hasn't been healed and dealt with in a way that it's not tripping us up. It's not something that keeps being triggered. So she's a resource. And I say she, angels really don't have gender, but to me, the beauty of Jophiel when she comes in is just this awesome, divine, feminine presence. So let her help you. Reach out to Jophiel. Just ask to get to know her and ask how she can help you declutter in your life. I want that to be one of the tools that you all take away from the show today, to know that there is so much help. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to go through any trauma, any bad experience, anything that's doesn't make you happy, happy, joy, joy. You don't have to go through that alone. And we do have access, immediate access to the angelic realm, to our spirit guides, to our beautiful Jesus, to God, anytime that we just need that or want that. There are many times, Deb, when I'm just like, oh, I just want to feel that presence. I just want to feel the warmth right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted people to understand that you don't have to be alone in going through and healing these places inside of you. And many times I have felt alone until I really came to know what being in this human body is all about. It's not just getting up in the morning and then going to sleep at night. There's so much to life, and it's finding that inside of you, finding that you are spirit, right, Deb? We are all part of the oneness.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, Teri. And isn't it amazing that God has created such a loving realm for us to hold on to, that's there for our support all the time because it's within us. And I couldn't imagine living life without that. I lived without it, not knowing it, that it was there to access all the time. I can't imagine living life or doing any kind of healing work. But even going forward in everything that we do on a day-to-day basis without the support that is given to us. And it's given to each person in whatever way they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Any way that they need it, there is support within you and around you. You don't always see it. You're not always willing to put the wall down
Mm-hmm.
to actually, reach out for help or see that it's standing right in front of you. That's part of the awakening process. So, a lot of what PTS does is you cut yourself off from everyone else to keep yourself safe. And this, like I said, this is all a coping mechanism to keep you protected. But it also keeps you from reaching inside and reaching outside. Because even when you do, I've had so many clients come in that really wanted help for the trauma that they experienced. But as soon as it started to get hard, where they would have to face their emotions, they didn't want to deal with it. And it's just part of the process. You can't force yourself to heal. You can't force yourself to be somewhere where you're not ready to be. but it is there waiting for you because you're really, your life here, your state of being is joy, and it's very difficult to experience joy when you are living in fear all of the time. So, I think it's, so many ways that people get affected and protect themselves when they've been traumatized. And I think it's important to know that you have hope and that you can heal. And and it gets to a point where, okay, so we've done all of this healing, and we've explored ourselves and really brought love to all parts of ourselves. It doesn't mean every now and then that little part doesn't pop up again for whatever reason, because of a trigger. And you just go through the same process of bringing more love and grace and listening to yourself. And I think you get to a point where, you don't need to keep going back there. Like it's done. It's accepting that it's done, and you don't have to live there anymore. It's like, okay, I can close the door, but if it starts knocking again, I know how to walk in and open the door again and do what I need to do to bring love to myself. But you get to the point where that, like, I can talk about, my trauma, and it doesn't have the same feeling anymore. I'm not attached to that story anymore. And that's what we're trying to do, is detach from these stories, these experiences that we've had. And some of them are just horrible, but it's like a nightmare. So but to detach, we do it not as a coping mechanism of it's repressed and it's going to come back and visit you again. We detach by processing it in love and feeling safe in yourself, that you can handle whatever comes up. Even if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter. It's you are experiencing your own self and how you feel. You're experiencing your energy, your thoughts, your belief systems, past memories. And so you do get to the point where you detach from them, and it's okay, they're gone. It's just something that was there in the past, and it doesn't pull on you the same way that it does, so that you can live a full life. You can become who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. We've had a great audience today that was listening in on Facebook, and I just want to say some appreciation for Jason Watts, who has been in our audience, and his last comment is that his trauma doesn't hold the same sting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so true. Just like what Deb was explaining, that we can let go. We can let go. Those stories, they happened. Yes, they happened. And acknowledge that, allow the fact that, yeah, it happened. And now I choose to move forward. All of those stories made us who we are right now, but we're not one of those stories. We're that combination of everything that happened in our life. And learning and growing from our experiences is what helps us to heal the emotions and helps us to see that we don't have to go to that place. We don't have to stay locked up in that one trauma that was so devastating and caused so much pain to us. We don't have to be in pain anymore. Life should be fun. I have a dear friend that passed a few years ago, Bob Miller, and every day he would send me a message, a text message. And without fail, he would tell me, Teri, life should be fun. Life should be enjoyed, every moment of it. Go out and swing on the swing sets. And he did.
Mhm.
He would go out on the playground and swing on the swing set. And he said, that's what life is about. It's
Right.
about those moments of joy, those moments of creating a healthy enjoyment of life. And
Mhm.
that's what we're talking about. That's what we've been talking about for this hour,
Mhm.
is how we can do that. Because so many people get stuck in that fact of something happened and you own it as your story. You know, you even call it my
Mhm.
sexual abuse, my whatever, you
Mhm.
fill in the blanks. Stop owning that story. It's only a part of who you are. It's not who you are. So that's the healing power of acknowledging, of allowing, and of knowing who you can turn to, who's there that can help. And we've shared that today. Deb and I both have shared how you can reach out. You can reach out to the angels. You can reach out to your spirit guides,
Mhm.
your higher power as you envision your higher power. We're not saying you have to buy into anything that we do, but we all have that knowledge that there's something greater than ourselves. There's something more than to this there is to this physical life that we see. So reach out, find what that is. Look inside, because that's where you're going to find it. You're not going to find it out there somewhere. So we're inviting you to take these words that we've spoken today to heart and to start doing that deep inner work. And if you need someone to hold your hand, we're here. We're
Mhm.
here. And we're more than happy to do that. And I have thoroughly enjoyed hearing Deb's take on this today and all of her sage advice that has come from experience, her own, and dealing with this in her career in life. So, Deb, if someone does want to reach out to you, if they say, I really like what I heard and I want her to hold my hand, or I just want more information from her and I want to follow what she does because she's so wise, which that's my words. I totally believe that. How do they find you, Deb? How do they reach out to you?
Thanks, Terry. You can find me on my website at debbiengoldberg.com. And you can send me an email through there, or you can visit me at my Facebook page at Deb Goldberg or Debbie N. Goldberg. And you can Facebook me there through message, or Enlightened World Network. You can reach out there. And now on Real Talk Spiritual Transformation, you can reach me there. I'd be delighted to help you in any way that I can. And as a last note, I want you to really take in that you are not broken, whatever you've been through, that it's a process. Healing's a process. And there is nothing wrong with your particular process, however long it takes. Um, when you are ready, and to just have grace for yourself as you go through the process and watch how you come out on the other side. It's a beautiful story of coming out of a cocoon into a butterfly. So there's nothing bad that comes from healing from trauma. It's only good things. And God
It
bless.
is. It's all good. Thank you all for being here, whether you found us on Facebook, on Periscope, or on YouTube. And we appreciate you so much being in the audience today. If you got benefit from what you heard, please share this out. Even if you share it after the show ends, someone else may need to hear these words. Someone else may need to have that experience of knowing that they're not alone and that they can heal and do that real thorough cleansing that needs to be done inside. I'll be back again next week on Gratitude Happy Hour. And be sure to tune in tomorrow at 5 o'clock for Deb's show, Divine Relationship Recovery. Thank you again. I love you so much. Good night, everybody. Good night, Deb.
Bye, Terry.